It was also a way to tell my mother, hey, you see, all this time I spent playing games was actually useful. I could get a company out of it. Yeah, and I'm Alexis Bond. I'm part of the first generation of internet entrepreneurs. The competition for basically marketing to acquire new users is extremely intense. So it makes it very hard for the indies and the startups to basically, make their space and try and get in there. So this is where, platforms like Twitch, but also YouTube and all that with the streamers and the influencers become a kind of an avenue to basically reach audiences. One of the companies we invested in is called Bossa Studios, and they just launched a game called Worlds Adrift. And they took exactly the same approach. They say it's kind of the first community-crafted MMO. They went to the community, they asked, what do you want in a kind of a game and all that. But actually, they went all the way. They actually launched the game on Twitch in early access.
That's awesome.
Every single experience, the experience I will have playing a game like Worlds Adrift will be completely different to the experience you will have. And that's what works with streamers.
This AI that composed the music is called Ava, and we use this AI to compose music for films, games, advertisements, any kind of entertainment.
Essentially, one thing that we think is going to be super big in music is personalized music. So we talked about video games having hundreds of hours of gameplay, interactive gameplay. Like in a movie, you expect every second of music to be very tailored to each and every frame, and that level of personalization really makes the film special. I think that's going to be big if you can do the same with video games.
The way our platform is set up is that we work directly with cultural institutions around the world to showcase their stories online. Part of that is providing support with digitization, so we capture very high-resolution gigapixel photography of artworks, as well as capturing street view inside beautiful buildings and museums to allow people to actually explore them in a way that is almost as good as actually going there. This is obviously a time when we want people in the world to be able to understand one another and to understand the history and heritage of where people come from. Everyone hasn't always had a culture of museums or even art, and so we've been exploring new areas of culture that maybe haven't been looked at before in an immersive way in one place before. Fashion, natural history, science, the performing arts. Now we're looking at this idea of preservation of culture, so looking at archaeology and cultural conservation of sites and artifacts that are under risk from things like war and destruction. So the idea of documenting is very important to us, but also just creating that access, because it can be used for research, it can be used for study, but it can also be used for pleasure and for happiness, and that's all very important to us.
My name is Patrick. I'm co-founder of Lilium, Vice President of Product, and today I introduce to you the world's first all-electric vertical takeoff and landing jet, which will serve as a 5-seated air taxi.
I mean, we're having in the world more than enough problems right now, so we don't want to solve another problem for just the 1% of the richest of the richest. So for us, it is super important that we make it accessible for everybody, and we can only make it accessible for everybody if we make it like in a very big, scalable way.
When you think about it, there will be some hundreds of airplanes up in the air. You don't want them to collide. You don't want them that something lethal will happen. And actually, this is what we want to do. With our approach, we arrived at a new level of safety. We have ultra redundancy, meaning we have no single point of failure.
I was a member of the founding team of Electronic Arts, and in fact, none of the founding team of Electronic Arts knew how to program games, but we I think, all had a good idea of what we liked and what we thought was high quality in production values and in content.
We wanted people to be able to have an experience that was emotional and that was engaging. Because it's so real, you can have almost living-like experiences, and they stay with you. It's the best way to learn anything, is to be able to get immersed in the situation and the circumstances and to interact with people in those circumstances. And that's possible too in virtual reality.
We are developing what we call Pilot. It's a language translator earpiece. The idea is you can speak to someone who is wearing Pilot, and it'll translate their language to you. It'll interpret directly for you.
It's a very complex problem to solve, to build a consumer product which is mass manufacturable, that focuses on speech translation, that focuses on accuracy and latency and all of these things, and it's what drives us to accomplish this.
Bom dia, bem-vindo à conferência.
Good morning,
Wow.
We are not the angel of the poor. We don't really help the poor. We help the pioneers to innovate so that people would not stay poor. So we're the partners of the pioneers.
We're also seeing other innovators create $1 eyeglasses through innovation and vending tools to create $1 eyeglasses for those people who don't have the insurance to still make it be affordable to get, because now the innovators and those in need are finding solutions to get around the political and the poor infrastructure problems that are created wherever they're at in the world to still have those healthcare needs or those nutritional needs that they need to survive.
We've got this wonderful book. It's The Beauty of Impact Health. This was last year's book, 2017, based on health innovations. And impact innovation is something that addresses more than 1 million people's problems or solves a global grand challenge. There are 17 impact innovations in this book, and all of them put together have the potential to reach just under 3 billion people's lives or solve those problems.
Isa and Rafael Mijeno from Salt. They're producing electricity with just salt and water.
1.2 billion people all across the globe are still not connected to the power grid, and half of which are located in Asia. And in the Southeast Asia region specifically, 70% of them still use fuel-based lanterns as their primary source of lighting. And these forms of lighting, it's pervasive, it's dangerous, and expensive.
We found out that the reason why people tend to go back into using kerosene lantern, despite the existence of other alternative light sources, is that the process of pouring liquid that's deeply wired in their brain, it's kind of hard to take that practice out in the system. And that's the main reason why we retain that in our process. But instead of pouring kerosene, we pour in salt water. Instead of lighting up a match, you're pushing an on and off button. So we are designing products according to the end user's behavior so they can easily adapt to our innovation.
And I believe if you want to be a billionaire, you have to solve a billion people's problem.